The great resignation is upon us, and a lot of engineers and technical professionals are asking, should I quit my job right now? In fact, it's estimated that 65% of employees in the United States right now are either considering or actively looking for a new job. How do you know that it's time to look for a new job? In this video, I'll give you 6 questions that you can ask yourself that will give you that answer. Before we get to those questions, I want to invite you to grab a free copy of my 2-hour career visioning plan via the link below this video. This guide will help give you some clarity around what you want in your career, which is the first step towards determining if you should stay in your current job or quit now. Grab your copy now if you're struggling to figure out your long-term career goals, which is an essential first step in figuring out if your current job is the right one for you. Question number 1. Do you have a financial runway in place? So what do I mean by financial runway? It's never advisable to quit a job when you have no means of income, no means of paying your bills. Financial runway can be savings. It can be a plan to move in with your parents, get a roommate. It could be a freelancing or part-time job. A financial resource could be a written job offer in hand that allows you to resign from one job and move to another. One caution here, make sure it's a written job offer. I would never recommend that anyone quits one job on only a verbal job offer because it's much easier for that to fall through. The second question you can ask yourself to decide if you should quit your job right now, fast forward to a year from now and ask yourself, do I still want to be in this job at this time next year? Pay attention to your gut reaction to this question because it's usually the most telling. What I've found is that for a lot of engineers and STEM professionals, we really value logic. And often we discount our guts, we discount our intuition, and then we start to rationalize and justify why staying in a role that just isn't good for us is something we can and should do. The result is that we stay in roles that aren't good for us longer than we should, perhaps out of a misguided sense of loyalty or the idea that, well, I'm not a quitter, so I'm going to stick it out and try and figure this out. Barring financial issues, which is why that was question number 1, it's really important to understand that our brains are generally resistant to change. So for some people, even making a leap into the unknown by going on that job hunt is resisted because we want to stay with the known, even if it's not a good place for us. I also want to help you understand some of the neuroscience about why that is. So it's estimated on the high end that only 5% of our brain activities are conscious. So that means the vast majority of the thinking and the processing and the decision making we do is done in the 95% of our unconscious mind, meaning that we're making these decisions and we're not even aware that this is what's happening. And so what I encourage you to do is to, when you have that gut reaction to this question, do I still want to be in this job a year from now? Don't discount what 95% of your brain is telling you and try and rationalize, oh, I should stay here because based on that only 5% of your thinking conscious mind. That gut reaction tells you more in that response than all the spreadsheets in the world. The third question to ask yourself is, are there growth paths available within this organization? Now, when we think of growth paths, we often think of promotions and raises. And ideally, there'd be clear, transparent growth paths at the organization where you're working. The reality is that's simply not the case, particularly for small and medium-sized firms. And so what can you do? Well, first, I would encourage you to rethink this idea that if you can't get a raise, you can't get a promotion, you don't get a title change, that means there are no growth paths available for you. Maybe for you, the right growth path is acquiring a new skill, working somewhere that they're going to pay for another degree, a certification, an MBA. It could be working somewhere that has a particular type of project that you find challenging and interesting and would allow you to acquire that new skill. What is the growth path that you most desire and would be most helpful for you in your career right now? And is that path available to you in your current organization? If you've hit some sort of ceiling, there's no way for you to grow, that might be a sign it's time to consider moving on to a different role, a different organization, or maybe even starting your own firm. Question number 4 to ask yourself, if you're trying to decide, should I quit my engineering job right now, is all about timing. And specifically, are you within the 3 to 5 year salary bump window? So in this book, When, by Daniel Pink, he cites research that talks about timing for leaving a job and going to a new one, and specifically the ideal timing if you want a jump in pay and responsibilities. They analyzed data from ADP, which is one of the largest payroll processors in the United States, and found that yes, there is indeed an ideal time to make a jump if your goal is to increase your pay, and it's between 3 to 5 years of experience after you've started at a particular company. So if you're within that time frame and you're thinking about, okay, is the timing right for me to make a jump? That understanding that might be the push you need to make a jump now as opposed to waiting, or to wait a year or two before making that leap. Question number 5 to ask yourself if you're deciding if you should quit your job right now is your daily work in line with your long-term goals? Now, as a reminder, if you're watching this video and you're like, I don't have long-term goals right now, I invite you to download the 2-hour career visioning plan, which will help you figure that out. But if you're trying to figure out, okay, is my daily work aligned with my long-term goals? Here's a couple of things you can consider. So first, what's your work-life balance look like? Is that working for you right now? And right now is the key. Don't ask if it worked for you 5 years ago or if it might work for you in a couple years. Is it working for you right now? We all have varying degrees of home responsibilities, willingness, maybe to work extra to acquire a specific skill or go to school or all of those things. If you're near burnout or if you're in burnout, you have a different tolerance for how much you're working than if you are someone who is just starting your career and just wants to absorb every little bit of knowledge from every single person that you can possibly get. So is that working for you right now? Other things you can think about is, okay, am I learning new skills? Am I being challenged? And are the skills I'm learning going to work for me in the long term? Do they have a long-term benefit to me? Because I'll tell you what, the first step to being completely unfulfilled at work is to be doing work that you don't enjoy, that does not align with any of your long-term plans, because even if it's challenging, you won't find fulfillment in doing that sort of work. So evaluate in what you're doing day to day, make a list if need be. Does what you're doing day to day align with your long-term goals? If it does not, or the vast majority of the time it does not, it might be time to consider moving on. Finally, question number 6, and the last one to ask yourself, if you're trying to decide whether you should quit your job right now and move on to a new one, is, are you satisfied with the level of autonomy you have in your work? So first, what do I mean by autonomy? Autonomy is the level of control you have over when, where, and how you get your work done. And in Dr. Friedman's book, The Best Places to Work, The Art and Science of Creating an Extraordinary Workplace, he cites autonomy and choice and how we approach our work as being one of the basic 3 human needs that we need to be fulfilled in the workplace. So in the extremes, we have micromanagers and we have completely hands-off managers. But for the most part, our actual level of autonomy is somewhere in between those 2 groups. But the reality is there are huge differences between individuals and how much autonomy they actually want, and for managers, how much autonomy they're willing to give. Some people need more day-to-day training and help, especially if they're learning a new skill, just starting out in a particular field, firm, or industry, or if they're starting a new role. Some people need a lot of rules, regulations, lots of accountability and deadlines in getting their day-to-day work done. Others do not. And so wherever you fall in that continuum, there isn't a right or wrong answer. The question to ask yourself is, am I satisfied with the level I have right now? Now, the reason this question made the list with only 6 questions that we have here is because in my experience, this is one of the single most difficult cultural issues to overcome if there is a mismatch, particularly if there is a mismatch here between your desired level of autonomy and the level of autonomy that your manager is giving you. This is really hard to resolve even if you ask for more or less autonomy. So if you're struggling with this and you've tried your best to resolve it and you still continue to struggle, know that it might be time to consider quitting this particular job and moving on to a different role or a different career path. Now, to recap. Here are the 6 questions that you can use to decide if you should quit the job you've got right now. Please share in the comments what is your deciding factor as to if a particular career path or organization is a good fit for you. And if you've answered these questions and you're still not sure, stay tuned for my next video where I'll very specifically discuss what to do about that. Before you go, don't forget to grab your free copy of my 2-hour career visioning plan, which will help you take the first step towards figuring out if the job you're in is right for you or if you should take a new one. Grab that via the link below. And if you found this video helpful and you want more practical tools, tips, and strategies to find your voice, engineer a career on your terms, and make your mark on the world, be sure to subscribe to this channel.